Awesome, that's official. All right, that means we are officially on. Welcome, everybody. I know we have some new faces. Well, maybe not new, but new to our meeting. So we're going to welcome you all right now. Just some housekeeping reminders for those that are joining us from the public today. If you'd like to speak and you're just on the phone, you'll dial *9. If you're here on Zoom and we can see your face, then you can use the raise hand, or we're watching for that, or just unmute yourself and we will call on you for your comments. So thank you. Looking forward to our meeting. We're gonna, we have quite the agenda, so we're gonna kick off right now and get started. Be mindful of everybody's time, and we will go to roll call, please.
District 1.
District 1 here.
District 2.
Here.
District 3.
Here.
District 4. District 5.
I'm here.
Banning.
Here.
Beaumont. Beaumont.
Here.
Calamasa.
Here.
Canyon Lake.
Here.
Corona.
Here.
Present and accounted for.
Thank you. Eastvale.
Present.
Hemet.
Present.
Harupa Valley.
Here.
Lake Elsinore.
Here.
Menifee.
Here.
Moreno Valley. Marietta.
Present.
Norco.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Riverside.
Here.
San Jacinto.
Here.
Temecula.
Here.
Wildemar.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Awesome, awesome. If you'd be obliged, Mr. Clint from Eastvale, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
It would be my honor if you could all please stand and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's going to take us to, if you're following us on the agenda, to public comments. Do we have any requests to speak, Lisa?
I do have Michelle Staples.
All right. Ms. Staples, we will.
Good morning, everybody. Upcoming on your agenda, there's agenda item number 6A, which is a closed session conference with real property negotiators for Olson Canyon Properties. I'm the attorney for Olson Canyon Properties. I didn't know if you were going to allow public comment in advance of the closed session, so I just wanted to let you know that Olson Canyon submitted its appraisal for review by our review appraiser and received some substantive comments back from the review appraiser. We are now in the process of revising the appraisal in response to the review appraiser's comments. We had hoped to have the revised appraisal back before today's meeting, but unfortunately our appraiser had a family emergency, and as a result, our revised appraisal won't be available to RCA until later this week. So we are requesting that RCA calendar this matter for discussion at the February 16th Executive Committee meeting, when RCA will have the benefit of the Olson Canyon appraisal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Michelle. We are going to have public comment right before closed session, but we will note that you've already made your comments and they are received. Appreciate that. Are there any other additional public comments?
I see a hand raised from Matthew Berry.
The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to do it, but my name's Matthew Furry, representing Murrieta KLC Holdings 130 LLC, and I'm making comment on item 7G, the MSHCP mitigation fee implementation manual update. And we're just wanting to make comment that we have an existing project JPR application 14-10-28-01, that we've been in the process of negotiating a fee credit and have been rejected based on a technicality in the past. And we're concerned that the MSHCP mitigation fee implementation manual as presented is going to prevent us from pursuing this avenue of seeking a fee credit. And we've had our attorney draft and submit a letter for comment as well. And we just want to make it known that we oppose this implementation fee manual update. We feel that some of the language is going to prevent us from seeking an appropriate fee credit for about 62 acres of land associated with this that we were planning on designated conservation open space. And we would please ask the board to consider rejecting this implementation fee manual or providing another avenue for landowners such as ourselves to have equitable and fair treatment. And that's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Noted. We will, we are not, that item is actually on consent. So we'll note that those are your comments for now, and we will move on. We appreciate that. Any additional comments or requests to speak, Lisa?
Mr. Sauls, did you want to speak during this item?
If you're going to open before closed session, I can wait.
Thank you.
All right. So that will take us through public comments, and there are not any additions or revisions that I'm aware of. So we will move quickly to Mr. Sauls. We will now take your public comment for closed session before we move there.
Good morning, everyone. So this is a request to pull item 7G, portions of 7G from the consent item calendar. There's some good things in this manual.
Ed,
yes.
Let me interject for just a second. We're specific to closed session right now.
Oh, closed session. Yeah, thank you. Wrong
Okay.
subject.
Okay. All right.
We got a lot going on here today.
We do have a lot.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate Olson Canyon, Michelle Staples' comments that we have an appraisal coming in. We're trying to accommodate comments from your review appraiser and would ask that you delay any action or further discussion until our appraisal's in. Thank you.
All right.
And I'd also like to note for the record that we did receive written comments from Michelle Staples that were distributed to the board.
Correct. We all received them. Thank you for that. Are there any other requests to speak before we make our closed session announcement?
I'm not seeing any additional hands raised.
All righty then. Then I will turn it over to our closed session announcement.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 3 closed sessions listed for potential property acquisition on the closed session agenda. The APNs and property owners are listed on the agenda face page.
Please stand by.
board member mails.
Yeah.
Hi, they're over in closed session. You should have gotten an invite. Down towards the bottom of your Zoom screen.
Oh, no. Okay, I keep going down. My internet's having issues, so it's shutting me down and bring me back up. Is it under breakout rooms or?
Yes, if you click on that, you should see that they assigned you. And if it somehow kicks you out, if you come back in, I'll just assign you right back.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry
You're
about that.
welcome.
It's just I have bad connection right now.
No worries.
Okay. This is ridiculous.
We're just waiting to make sure everybody gets back from our closed session. Please bear with us for just a second.
We are clear.
Thank you, Philip. All right, that will take us to our report from closed session. I'll turn it over to our legal counsel.
There is no report on any of the closed session items.
And there is your report, no reportable action. All right, following us on the agenda is next up is our consent calendar. And I do want to say, I know we had some noted earlier comments. Is there any request to speak on our consent calendar? I see Michelle Staples has her hand up, so I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. I also am concerned, as the other speakers were, on the item number 7G. I want to thank the RCA for including clarifying language on the ability for the county and cities to accept prepayment of fees for applicants wishing to pay the current fee in effect at the time of the payment. And we do urge the RCA to approve this new policy as part of the manual update. Of course, the 2 MSHCP mitigation fee increases already have taken effect, so we ask that RCA consider applying this policy retroactively to developers who asked RCA to prepay their fees than the current fees last year before the most recent fee increase. We also ask that RCA pull the fee credit section from the manual from today's consent calendar approval. And that's because, as my letter mentions, there are several inconsistencies with the text of the MSHCP. Rather than go through them, I do want to ask the board to consider establishing an advisory committee that includes members of the regulated community to rework the language of the fee credit provision, and that is on the manual page 13, and on the online agenda it's on page 118 of 460. My letter goes into more detail about 3 or 4 instances where that policy is simply inconsistent with the MSHCP and needs to be clarified. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sauls?
Thank you very much. A similar request, the same that the sections of the manual in chapter 2, items number 1 about fee credits, and number 2 of that same subsection is about standards applied to when fee credits are allowed to be used. One of the key things, these require further thought and discussion. And one of the key things here, for example, is that if the applicant didn't include the request for a fee credit in their HONS and JPR, that the RCA is therefore not obligated to reimburse the landowner for setting aside that land through fee credits. Well, this is best kind of described from the story. Imagine later on any of you is going to one of the preserves and you're visiting the preserve with a preserve manager, and you're going around and you're saying, hey, Mr. Manager, this is fabulous. You're doing a great job here. And he says, thank you very much. And then you come around a corner and all of a sudden you see something like a riparian woodland. And it's full of trash and old refrigerators, and they've been using it for a paintball war zone and motorcycle tracks and BMX jumps all over the place. He says, what's going on here? He says, well, it's not my responsibility. What do you mean? It's clearly in the preserve boundary. What's going on? He says, well, sir, when they filled out the HONS JPR application, Section 6C1 of the MSHCP says the property owner shall submit a written description of biological information available for the property. Well, this habitat wasn't described on the application, so it's not my job to protect it. Well, That's what we're saying. If for some reason a request for fee credits wasn't on the original application for the project, the RCA is not obligated. It's not their job to compensate them. And that's entirely in contrast what the purpose and intent and fundamental responsibilities are of the MSHCP. So that's an example of why these need further discussion and request that these sections be pulled.
Thank you, Mr. Sauls. I'm going to, I don't see any other hands raised, but I'm going to ask for comments or consideration. I'm going to pull myself item 7G from consent, and then I would like to take consideration of the balance.
Move the balance. Second that.
I have a motion to move the balance from Wildemar and a second by Murrieta. If there's no further discussion, I will go to roll call vote.
Madam Chair, I don't know if it's the appropriate time, but I had a question for council.
For 7G?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move to that because I pulled it, so we'll talk about it in just a second.
Okay, good. Thank you.
District 1,
District 1, yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Corona,
Aye.
Eastvale,
Aye.
Hemet, Hemet, Aruba Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside,
Aye.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Aye.
Wildemar.
Aye.
Thank you. The consent calendar passes with the exception of 7G.
All right, thank you. So we'll take it back to 7G, noting the comments as well as the written correspondence that was distributed to the entire board on this item. We had 3 pieces of correspondence, and just giving you guys the reminder about that. To the comments from public comments, a couple of things. This is a manual update that is for consideration. I just want to give some clarity about what the options we have or alternatives. This isn't policy direction or policy items. This is to get our member agencies the update, and we can make recommendations or give directions to staff based on policy items that need that. Specifically, I'm going to use the same example that was used in our public comments, like the fee credit. We do also have our stakeholders meeting coming up, which would be, it's in March. This would be a great opportunity to daylight to them too. But the consideration for 7G is to get the manual update to our member agencies. So I want to make sure, is there any other comments from staff? Aaron, did you have more that I didn't cover?
Madam Chair, you got that correct. The purpose of this item is to update the manual with the comments from our member agencies after about a 6-month review process that we went through with them after RCTC took over as the managing agency. And so this is really to make the existing manual more user-friendly for them. The policy manual is intended to be, it's an administrative document that was adopted along with the Nexus Study. That's a living document. So at any time, the board can direct staff to go look at specific components of it and bring it back for update in certain specific areas if that's the board's desire. But the elements that are being spoken to in public comment today are not new. In one form or another, they've been in place since approximately 2016 when the board first adopted this fee credit policy.
Okay. Are there comments or questions from the board?
Hands up.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see it.
No
Murrieta.
problem. So, Mr. Devon, question for you, sir.
Yeah.
With respect to segregating 7G from this manual, if this update goes out what we've just pulled would be included in that. Is that correct?
Well, at this point, the entire manual is before consideration for the board. There aren't significant changes to the fee credit provisions. So if that was removed, it wouldn't make any substantive changes to the way the fee credits are handled by the agency.
So, but there is public concern, obviously, or we wouldn't be having the conversation. So how do we address that and still move forward?
Well, obviously, there are a number of different options. One option would be to approve the changes today, which are, as staff and the chair have explained, are to address member agency comments. They don't make substantive changes to the questions under consideration. The board could then, direct further review of the manual or the fee credit language in particular to other committees within the agency. That would be one way to handle it, to keep this moving, and also to address concerns by the member agencies. A second manner, obviously, would be to just simply send the entire thing back, the entire manual, including all of the updates, back to a committee or some other committees for consideration. And at that point, we could, staff and legal could meet with the appropriate parties to discuss the fee credit language. But again, there's not much in the way of substantive changes to the fee credit language at this point.
So the sections that they referred to in 7G, if we extracted those and had them go back, see, I just don't see holding the policy update up, but I think the issues that they've brought forward should be addressed. They are concerns, and some of them are legitimate concerns. So if there were errors and we have multiple, and there are conflicts within the policy, then we should at least consider looking at those conflicts and trying to mitigate those.
If I could just offer, I mean, my recommendation would be to move forward with the item as presented, and then if board members have requests that we review the fee credit language, that can be accommodated through subsequent actions of the committees or other, and the board.
So that would go back to Ann. Ann, how long would it take to facilitate bringing that back for discussion?
So if the board approved the manual today as is, then we and all of our member agencies would have a working document upon which to make decisions. So I think that is a really important aspect, so that things don't get slowed down in terms of processing projects that are going through the process. Based on the letter we received, I think we received it yesterday, and some comments we received this morning, we can go through and evaluate those comments, specifically the one related to whether or not a developer needs to identify a fee credit request at the JPR stage of a process. I think that one is the one that stood out to me this morning in the comments. We can certainly analyze that over the next month. We have, as the chair mentioned, we have a stakeholder committee already scheduled for March. So we would be able to talk to the people who've raised their concerns today, so we fully understand them. We have a stakeholder meeting in March, and then we would be able to come back to the board probably in April with some input and feedback upon what we heard on these particular items that have been raised. So I don't think it's a significantly long process. And again, we have a stakeholder committee that is, I think they're going to be introduced any moment now. And we can go to them as well as the people who have raised concerns today to talk about what they're seeing in the document. I should reiterate, as Aaron pointed out, the fee, and Steve, the fee credit component of this manual has not changed much since 2016. So these are longstanding policies that this board has had in place. And certainly we can take a look at them if you'd like us to.
Yes, that would be my point. So rather than 6 months, you're talking probably 90 days, because the first comment with Aaron was 6 months. And as he alluded to, this policy's been in place since 2016. So I don't understand the rush other than from the fee structure portion that we're amending this. Maybe you can explain that to me so I can understand it for my own edification.
Jonathan, I think that, oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay, so the 6 months was the 6-month committee effort we had with member agencies to address all of their administrative comments. With respect to what we're being, if you ask us to look at these policies today, I think we can certainly do that in less than 90 days. Again, there's a stakeholder meeting in March already scheduled, so I think that would be a great jumping off point for that. I think what you asked related to fee payments, I do want to make clear that I know that was another comment that was made regarding prepayment. RCA allows prepayment of fees if the member agency allows prepayment of fees. If a member agency does not allow prepayment of fees, that is, we cannot accept the prepayment. So I just want to make sure that the prepayment portion is clear, that if the board wants us to look at that, that may take longer than 90 days because not all of our member agencies are willing to accept prepayment. So if you want us to talk about prepayment of fees, which I think our executive committee has already reviewed that policy issue, that would be a much longer conversation than just the next couple of months.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Natasha.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes, my concern would be possibly the sequence of things that we're bringing this up right now. And in 2 more items, we might be talking about an issue that goes directly against what we just passed. Aaron made the comment that this is a living document, and I agree with that. But with all things in government, when you're going to make a change, even minor in substance, sometimes takes so long. So those would be my concerns too, Ann. That if we decide to, go a certain way with item 9, that we can't do that because we just approved in stone everything from 7G.
And Supervisor, I understand that even if the board provides direction in the subsequent item that is different than our current manual, we would have to reconcile those and come back to the board. Even if we're given direction to proceed on that, the fee credit item you're going to be discussing soon, that will take months to evaluate that whole process and the whole acquisition. In the meantime, we need a fee manual for the cities to be able to operate on it. So I would not suggest that it's set in stone at all, that it's the manual for today and for the coming weeks. And once the board makes decisions to do something different, the manual can be updated and changed. If we don't adopt it today, then we're not adopting the administrative changes that the cities and the county have asked us to do for their own benefit.
All right.
Based on, I can only see a certain amount of hands. Lisa, are there any other hands up?
I don't see any other hands up, but I did want to reiterate what you had stated for the record, that we did receive 3 written comments on item 7G from Greg Lowther, Jeff Willis, and Michelle Staples.
All right, thank you so much, Lisa. So based on the fact that this, as we're talking about, is a living document, and there is a subsequent, there are some subsequent items that we would like to have direction and clarity, based on our work with our member agencies and providing them a structure in which they can do business, I'd like to make the motion to approve today's manual update and give direction to our stakeholder committee to start to look at our subsequent items so we can start that process of review.
Second, Corona.
I don't quite know, but I think the first is Lake Elsinore and the second is Corona. I think that's what I heard. Okay. Is there any further discussion?
No, just could you include in that motion that there will be a time frame so that we have some type of idea when this will be going back to the committees to bring back to us?
I'll look to staff for that. I know that stakeholders are meeting in March, and based on their feedback, we can calendar an update for April, but I don't know as far as a timeline. Does staff have recommendations for a timeline?
we can be back in April for an update.
Perfect. Madam Chair, I'll support that motion as well. Thank you.
Okay. And we will go to roll call vote.
District 1,
District 1, yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Boma,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Corona,
Aye.
Eastville,
Aye.
Emmett,
Abstain.
Rupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside,
Aye.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
I'm here. Aye.
Thank you. Wildemar,
Aye.
thank you. 7G passes.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate your patience as we move to the next item, and great conversation. And I know our stakeholders have been waiting quite some time, so thank you for those that were able to stay. I know some had other commitments they had to make. We're on agenda item number 8, which is the introduction of our stakeholder committee that we just assigned. We're pretty much creating their agenda right now as we speak, basically. But just for some backup and some background, we transitioned as our management oversight with RCTC and our merger last year. One of our top priorities as a board was to collectively expand some of our resources and our tools, and we really wanted to make sure that communication and education efforts and our stakeholder outreach was addressed. So one of the ways we're doing this is relaunching this program that had really kind of faded off and not been utilized maybe to its full potential. So we have reestablished it, and we're bringing these folks together. We're so thankful that they've decided to serve, and looking forward to what they're going to bring to our board and as a committee, and provide this as a tool and a resource for us as board members. So as we just teed up the first thing, which will be our subsequent item for fee credit review, I just want to know that this committee, I want everyone to remember that this committee is intended to bring our communities together and to serve the different various experiences that the stakeholders will have. I really want to thank the board for ratifying my recommendation to have these folks join us today. And it's really our pleasure to introduce our stakeholders committee, put a face to a name, and hear a little bit about what they're excited about. We've asked them to keep it brief, but really want to give them some time. So I think staff is going to help us with keeping everybody on track and introducing, but the first, our first stakeholder, if he's with us, is Rick. Is he with us, Lisa? I don't know who had to leave and who couldn't stay on.
I don't see Rick. Are you here, Rick? All right, we can move on to the second person, which is Dan.
Mr. Silver.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. I'm Dan Silver with Endangered Habitats League. I was part of the original stakeholder group, as are others on the new stakeholder group. Be good to see them again. And so I've been at this since day one, and I'm gratified that the program has lasted, that it is stronger than ever, that this notion of a regional open space system has become embedded as part of the identity of a region, which will have nature nearby to communities. Obviously, I want to continue working on funding, on assembly, moving quicker on assembly than we have in the past, and also working on enforcement issues due to the large amount of illegal activity that's going on in the preserves. Thank you very much. My honor to serve.
The next member is Allison.
Hello, my name is Allison Rink. Hello, everyone, and all the fellow stakeholder meetings. people that are here today. I am excited to serve on the committee because we are an area that in the Anza-Awanga area where I come from, we do have quite a few multi-species habitat, and it does benefit our community in many ways. So I'm interested in all things, and I've watched the multi-species regional conservation authority grow over time, and have been oftentimes a volunteer that goes out there and picks up the trash that's out on the areas. So thank you.
Welcome.
Kara?
Hi, everyone. My name is Cara Lacey, and thank you so much. I am really enthused to be here. I am representing the Nature Conservancy in California on this committee, and the Conservancy has been involved and supportive of the MSHCP for decades, and we continue to support the RCA and others in land protection efforts to implement the MSHCP, and continue to also work toward wildlife corridors and crossings that are supportive of the RCA's efforts. So I am really excited to be part of and serve on this committee. It gives us all a chance to really understand and listen to the breadth of values, concerns, and opportunities to implement the MSHCP now and into the future. And like Dan, I am also very interested in continuing to work on the assembly of this regional plan and the funding for both acquisitions, land protection, and management for the plan. So thank you so much. I'm excited to serve.
Welcome.
Michael?
Hi, my name is Michael Vermantes. I work with Rivers and Lands Conservancy. And at Rivers and Lands Conservancy, I know we hold some public, quasi-public, or PQP lands for the MSHCP. And I also know that we work closely with some folks at the RCA in regards of managing some of the endangered species we manage habitat for. I'm excited to serve. I'm excited to, learn this process. So I know there's a lot going on just in this one meeting alone. And so, I'm just excited to learn the ropes and help however I can.
Welcome.
Bruce?
I'm Bruce Colbert, Executive Director of the Property Owners Association of Riverside County. The association served on all of the county's stakeholder committees for the Riverside County Integrated Project, including the MSHCP Advisory Committee, and we're committed to the success of the MSHCP. I believe that a plan that's working smoothly means that everyone's interests are being served. So I look forward to helping us with the plan's implementation. Keep it short.
Welcome.
Nicole?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm also new to the Stakeholders Committee. I'm very excited to be here. And I work for the Rivers and Lands Conservancy, along with Michael. We hold and manage about 1,100 acres that are included as ARL and PQP lands in the MSHCP, and about 1,500 acres in the Western County and growing. So we have a shared goal of land conservation with the MSHCP, and I'm very honored to be here and to learn from everyone.
Welcome, Nicole.
Pam?
Hi, I'm Pam Nilsson from the local Sierra Club, Temecula-based. I've been following the MSHCP and using it as a tool and opportunity to protect the Southwest Riverside County habitats. And I'm excited about finding ways to prioritize wildlife corridors and crossings and finding funds to acquire and manage MSHCP lands. So kind of like the rest of the crowd.
Welcome.
Tuba?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Board and Stakeholders Committee. My name is Tuba Ibra Özdil, and I'm representing Pechanga Band of Indians. For the past 10 years, my goal is to protect the tribe's traditional landscapes, intangible and tangible cultural resources from potential and actual impacts. Tribe been involved in cultural resources preservation for the past 40 years, and we work really closely with the jurisdictions within Western Riverside County, including Riverside County and RCA. And cultural resources preservation goes hand in hand with the environmental conservation. So I'm excited to be part of the committee to participate the awareness and implementation of the MHACP and then support a successful habitat preservation. Thank you so much, and I'm excited to serve.
Welcome.
Ed?
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Ed Sauls. My involvement in this plan probably began at least a decade before its adoption. Dan Silver and I were working on some of the first natural communities conservation plans and cutting edge habitat conservation plans in the early 90s. With that success, it was my desire to see if we couldn't accomplish something similar and on a much greater scale in Western Riverside, where it resolved conflicts between endangered species protection and development and community interests. I think this plan does it. I'm excited to be a part of it. I do so in the capacity as president of the Sauls Company, CEO of the California Land Conservancy, as an investor in Western Riverside with Wilhelm Sauls Development and Investments. And of note, Tuba, I was pleased to be one of the authors of the Agua Caliente tribal habitat conservation plans, which was edge cutting. So eager to get going with this, to look at things like the policy we had today, to further the funding and the conservation goals of the plan. And I look forward to it. Thank you.
Well, it's not really a welcome, Ed, but welcome back again. Thanks for continuing to serve.
Thank you. I'm here for the duration, as long as I can.
Matthew?
Hi there, Matt Leesmeyer here from 4M Engineering and Development. I know quite a few of you from my volunteer role, but I also have a real job. My real job is we are civil engineering, land surveying, and development firm located in Temecula, and we've collectively here, we've got about 60 years of experience working in and around the county. Myself, I've been involved with the county and local projects for about 20 years. That's about the only time you're ever going to hear me date myself. However, learned quite a bit about the MSHCP process, the plan. Every single one of our projects touches the MSHCP in one shape or another, and looking forward to using my experience working on this side of the aisle with the group. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Terry?
Hi, everyone. My name's Terry Biancardi, and I am here specifically representing the Meadowview Community Association, which is based in Temecula. Our homeowners association manages close to 400 acres of natural open space and experiences many of the same challenges that the RCA does. Even though we're not in a criteria cell, Meadowview and the RCA have a long history of cooperation, sharing information and resources. In fact, Princess Hester formed the Riverside Communities Partnership Project around our partnership, which emerged out of sharing AmeriCorps teams between our properties. I would really like to see that program restarted. Personally, I would like to explore new and emerging ways to acquire land to fill out the reserve assembly, such as 30 by 30, valuing carbon in natural areas, and stormwater alternative compliance. I'm very excited to be here, and I thank you so much for choosing me.
Welcome.
Julie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Beeman, president of VCS Environmental, and on this committee representing the Building Industry Association. And my firm transacts with the MSHCP on a very frequent basis. And so what I'm hoping to help with is identifying ways to potentially streamline some of the processes we have, just to make sure that we're using staff time at the RCA wisely, as well as consulting time out there in the universe wisely, but really support the MSHCP as a plan overall. And I just think there's some minor tweaks that might make it even better. So happy to help. Thank you for allowing me to serve.
Welcome, Julie.
Brian?
Hi, my name is Brian Bush. I'm new to the stakeholder committee, but I see a lot of familiar faces here, so I'm excited to learn and to provide insight. I am the VP of Acquisitions over at Diversify Pacific. We're a private developer. We also manage a private equity fund that owns approximately 4,000 acres scattered throughout the Inland Empire, including the Riverside County, RCA's boundary. So I'm just here to help. I've been working with a couple conservation agencies to get some smart growth of dedicating conservation land and then also providing housing. I've been involved in the BIA. I was a former board member. I also do work and I'm an advocate for affordable housing. So I'm just excited to be here. looking forward to the future.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Eileen?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eileen Anderson. I'm a senior scientist with the Center for Biological Diversity, and I was first associated with the HCP in its formative stages when I worked for the California Native Plant Society. So I'm happy to remain engaged with the processes here, and I look forward to basically participating in the committee to put in my 2 cents worth about the incredible opportunity we have here to conserve a whole lot of really unique plants and animals. I mean, Western Riverside is really blessed with that, and very exciting opportunity. Want to make the HCP work, and thank you for the invitation to participate, and happy to be here.
Welcome.
And Rick? Rick?
Well, if Rick joins us, let me know. He can raise his hand and we can quickly circle back. But I know it looks like we have a comment or a question, but on behalf of the entire board for Riverside Conservation Authority, I want to express our gratitude for your service on our stakeholders committee. It's incredible to hear what a diverse group we have. I think it's going to serve us very well, and we look forward to your participation and definitely your thoughtful input on implementing our goal for the MSHCP. So thank you. Corona, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say great job to the selection committee. As someone who works with the HCP in his day job, it's nice to see several names and faces from when the HCP was first formed. And I remember sitting at a table filling in for Dr. Larry LaPre at one of these meetings, and just being in awe of all these really smart folks that help carry this plan forward. So it's nice to see them, Ed and Eileen and Dan still involved. So it's really great, and a lot of really great new folks and new names that I've either worked with or worked around for years. It's nice to see. Looking forward to see how this group is going to push the plan forward, and looking forward to seeing it change and evolve and continue to build upon the acres and acres that we still need. Thanks.
Yeah. Wes, I would agree with you, and I would love to say that we had this great narrowing down process, but truly we had wonderful applicants, and so I appreciate you all trusting and ratifying the selection, because we got to basically offer the opportunity to a really great group of folks, because that's who applied, and staff did a great job reaching out. So thank you for that comment. Menifee.
Thank you, Latasha, and thank you for bringing this back to the board. I just wanted to welcome everyone, and I just wanted to thank you for wanting to be part of this process as a board member. And I didn't know that we were going to have a contest today on backgrounds, but I will tell you, Cara, you got my vote for the best background today. But truly welcome. We're looking forward to great things moving forward and hearing your discussions.
That's a very
thank you.
Well, interestingly enough, I don't know if you guys caught it, but I see Julie Beeman has a box of Girl Scout cookies sitting on her couch behind her. So I'm not sure that can come in.
That's presents from my staff for Valentine's Day. So yes, one of our staff's daughters sold all those to me. So yeah.
Inner foodie saw it. Right
I can share. I'll bring some to the first meeting.
All right. Thank you all. So welcome.
Natasha, did you see my hand?
I don't, but there you are. Come on in. Go ahead, sir.
Regarding the Girl Scout cookies, I just got off the wagon. I've been off the wagon for a year, and now my dealer is bringing them back around, my grandkids. So this board is an amazing board that you have assembled here, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I've worked with all of you in the past, and Natasha, I'm very proud that you and staff got this over the finish line, that it's actually going to be implemented. Great job. you deserve hands up on that one. Thank you so much. And thank you, Ann.
Help everybody. All right. Thank you, sir, for those comments. Welcome. We do have, as you all notice, a lot going on in this meeting. So thank you for making some time. You're welcome to stay. But I know some of you have some commitments. So if you can stay, great. If not, thank you for joining us today. We're going to move to our next agenda item, which is number 9. And I want to see if we have, I know we have received correspondence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 correspondence. Do we have any requests to speak?
As you noted, we did receive 6 letters regarding this item. George Hay, Greg Lowther, Drew Feldman, Dan Silver, Susan Nash, and Gary Washburn. And I do see several hands. The first I saw was Stephen Quintanilla.
Okay.
Susan Nash, I can't find my hand thing, but I would like to speak in order.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Nash. All right. Lisa, will you call on an order then, since we have so many comments? And then I'm just gonna, while she's doing that, I just want to be mindful of speaker times because you can't see an actual speaker clock. Our clerk of the board will then just let you know when you're coming towards the end of your comments and ask you to wrap it up, just so we're clear, because you don't have a clock right in front of you.
Stephen?
Oh, thank you. Stephen, the city attorney guy? Is that? Oh, okay.
Stephen Quintanilla, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Steve Quintanilla, I'm the interim city attorney for the city of Moreno Valley. So first of all, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, and RCA staff. First of all, I just want to point out this board meeting was not scheduled for today. I would be attending a memorial service with the Moreno Valley City Council and their executive team. So that should shed some light on why Moreno Valley is not represented today on the dais. In any event, I appreciate the opportunity to comment on the city's request for a fee credit. Now, I like to share an observation. I know Executive Director Ann Meyer just raised a very important issue, that is that it's important to have a working document so that staff has clear direction on how to apply policies of the implementation manual. And I also appreciate Supervisor Hewitt's comments that the implementation manual is a living document, which it should be, to accommodate changes in like land use strategies regarding development and land conservation and habitat preservation, which we're seeing different strategies being used nowadays. So as many of you know, as local elected officials, sometimes it's good to be flexible and open-minded, especially when presented with an unexpected, and I call it an opportunity, or an idea that will help meet the RCA's policy goals or mission, which in this case is to assemble hundreds of thousands of acres of land for conservation and habitat preservation. Now, I know I'm oversimplifying RCA's mission, but I think it's important to acknowledge that this opportunity to permanently set aside a little bit more than 2,700 acres of land in perpetuity can be very beneficial from the perspective of the multiple species habitat conservation plan. And this is what I hope to persuade the decision makers to acknowledge today. And I'm hoping that that acknowledgement will come in the form of directing your very capable and expert staff to explore this opportunity with their city counterparts and their, or also their colleagues in Highland Fairview, the developer, and other local stakeholders, some of whom I believe are here today. And speaking of acknowledgements, I'd like to go on the record to acknowledge that this settlement agreement was negotiated by and between 2 private parties, Highland Fairview and the Friends of Northern San Jacinto Valley Wildlife Area. And it does not compel RCA, the state, or any other agency to do anything under the terms of the settlement agreement with respect to the land. However, even though the respective agencies don't have any obligations under the settlement agreement, I think this should not be the determinative factor as to whether the subject settlement provisions regarding the land may be beneficial to the RCA's mission. Now, I realize the fee credit was not part of the joint project review process since the settlement didn't happen until 7 years later.
Your speaking time? Sorry, your speaking time has come to an end. Please wrap up your comments.
Okay. So I think that the point is that with this particular settlement, it may be setting off a trend, such as the city has been dealing with respect to another settlement agreement involving Highland Fairview, where they contributed all these community benefits to the residents. And we made a special effort to accommodate that, even though we had nothing in our land use policies that would provide that we could accept such community benefits. And so I'm respectively suggesting that instead of looking at all these obstacles we have in place, that we don't look at them as being insurmountable. We keep focusing on how we can seize this opportunity to put land into conservation and habitat preservation in perpetuity. And I'm hoping that, that the board will give direction to the staff to explore this opportunity in further detail with not only the city, but also the other stakeholders. I'm sorry, I had a lot more to say. I thought I would have more, a longer time to comment on this, but in the interest of saving time, I'll conclude my remarks now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next hand I saw was from a phone number 951-924-0816. You're unmuted.
Hello, I'm George Haig, Conservation Chair of the Moreno Valley Group of the Sierra Club. One of the concerns the Sierra Club has had with the MSHCP is the concept of internal buffers when it comes to protecting major reserves like the San Jacinto Wildlife Area. Based on the staff report, you have the opportunity to provide real buffers and habitat on the eastern side of the San Jacinto Wildlife Area. Even some real external buffers with some habitat from the World Logistics Center on the northern side of the San Jacinto Wildlife Area. The City of Moreno Valley has plans for the quail ranch to be commercial, as shown on some of their maps. This in turn would cause the Eden Hot Springs to eventually follow suit, especially with Gilman Springs Road improvements on which the county is currently working. Now is the time for you to make it possible to acquire these large contiguous blocks under a single ownership. This would allow for several Gilman Springs undercrossings and linkages to Mystic Lake and other areas of the San Jacinto Wildlife Area, as well as providing important connections with the local mountains. These donated lands will also provide significant buffer and habitat to the eastern part of the San Jacinto Wildlife Area. In your agenda packet, staff has given you Alternative 2, which is the Sierra Club hopes you will support, and asks staff to explore alternative mechanisms to make these important donations happen while honoring your commitment to the Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Plan. That Alternative 2 reads, negotiate for the proposed conservation lands, notwithstanding board-adopted policies. And the staff report gives you several important sections for you to consider. On pages 352 and 353, they say 2,231 of these acres are within the MSHCP criteria cells. It continues, in general, the package of proposed conservation lands could contribute positively to assemblage of the MSHCP reserves. It continues, it is beneficial that the proposed conservation lands are under a single ownership and many of the parcels are contiguous and adjacent to existing conservation lands. On page 354 or 362, it says there are benefits to RCAC receiving lands all at once. Typical average of this amount is under many ownerships with different motivations. This can lead to piecemeal acquisitions and sometimes difficult negotiations to acquire land.
Your speaking time has come to an end. Please wrap up your comments.
The Sierra Club wants you to support Alternative 2, or in some ways come together and negotiate and bring these lands into the RCA. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Silver.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. Dan Silver, Endangered Habitats League. Undoubtedly, this is a very unique opportunity for large parcels under a single ownership. However, As you know, there are major problems with the fee credit approach. Thus, we urge you to direct staff to explore alternative mechanisms for bringing these parcels into the reserve system. These alternative approaches can be consistent with current RCA policies and practices regarding payment of mitigation fees, and with continued RCA discretion over which properties are to be acquired. Highland Fairview and the other parties should, of course, be part of this evaluation in a collaborative approach. So I hope you can move forward and we can realize the benefits, even though if it's not exactly as in the settlement agreement, hopefully we can get to the same or a similar place. Thank you very much.
Susan Nash.
I'm unmuted now. Thank you. I am president of the Friends of the Northern San Jacinto Valley and also the attorney for Friends, and I negotiated the settlement agreement. And of course, there's no requirements that anything happen. So I'm fast becoming more familiar with the MSHCP, and I have been looking at the Hans process. And so my suggestion was, because the original Hans was under section B, which does not allow offsite lands to be acquired and get fee credit for, that this process be changed or else refiled by Highland Fairview, if they are so willing, as an evaluation for which a development application is not intended to be filed. That doesn't have any restriction in either the MSHCP or the policy regarding what incentives may be offered. So that's what I would, to give structure to the negotiations, so they're not simply floating out there, but give them structure under a joint project acquisition review process and a new number for a property owner, Highland Fairview, acquisition. Thank you.
Ed Sauls.
My comments were covered earlier today. Thank you. It's just appropriate that we give full consideration to this proposal from the city and the landowner. Thank you.
Garrett Sauls. Garrett. Ido Benzivi.
Yes, good afternoon, board members, Madam Chair. Highland Fairview is in support of the city's request that the RCA consider the Highland Fairview's contribution of land for conservation in lieu of MACP fees. We believe that these properties will provide a valuable addition to conservation in Western Riverside County and support the RCA's mission. As you are aware, we are substantially committed to economic development as well as conservation in our region. We believe this is a unique opportunity to add much needed land in Western Riverside County for conservation that otherwise would not have been obtainable. I thank you for your consideration. I think this could be a major contribution to the RCA's mission and vision that you put forth many years ago. And we're happy to be part of it, and we'll do all we can to assist in bringing this to full conservation. Thank you.
I unmuted myself. I'm sorry. This is Garrett Sauls.
Thank you.
I'll make it very quick. This is a very unique opportunity for the RCA to acquire a significant amount of land all under one ownership. This is approximately 3% of the additional reserve lands that are necessary for RCA. The pros outweigh the cons on this proposal significantly. However, there are significant challenges proposed to RCA with regards to fiscal impact and other things. However, with that being stated, it is extremely difficult for the RCA to complete Core 3 and complete this linkage without these acreage. Therefore, I'd like to suggest that RCA staff and board strongly look at potentially acquiring this acreage, be it be fee credit or what have you. This is a unique opportunity that does not come along very often. It would be very much in their favor to pursue. Additionally, some of the items that were shown in staff report of how this is something where there would be significant impacts with how this land is located. In regards to management activities, there are lands throughout all of Western Riverside County that is already a current strain on the resources that is obviously going to have to be taken into effect, but that is an ongoing problem that was inherited. And also with regards to how there's few HONs that are being submitted in this area, that is true for in the past. However, as everyone knows, the market has been extremely hot as of lately. And with a 40 million square foot logistics center being proposed, this is something that cannot be passed on. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Eileen Anderson.
Susan, how do I get on?
Pardon me?
Sir, I hear you. I'll call on you next.
Oh, thank you.
Great. Hi, this is Eileen Anderson, Center for Biological Diversity. And we see that there's great benefit to bringing these lands into the reserve system. Definitely there should be ways to make this happen. And we would suggest to direct staff to work to find those ways to get them into the reserve system. There's benefits, they're good lands, and they should be part of the reserve. Thank you.
Tom?
Yes, this is Tom Pollock. I'm a retired California Department of Fish and Wildlife Associate Wildlife Biologist who spent his entire 28-year career with Fish and Game in Western Riverside County. And I'm the former area manager of the San Jacinto Wildlife Area. Consequently, I am very knowledgeable concerning the wildlife resources of Western Riverside County and the countywide wildlife programs such as the SKR HCP and the MSHCP. After my retirement in 2006, I became the conservation chair for the Friends of the Northern San Jacinto Valley, and I participated directly with Highland Fairview in the negotiation to settle the World Logistics Center California Environmental Quality Act lawsuit. I think it's very important for the RCA board members, and particularly the public, to understand and recognize that the MSHCP is an incidental take permit pursuant to the Federal and State Endangered Species Act. The MSHCP permits or allows the killing, the destruction of the habitats of 146 species of plants and animals throughout Western Riverside County. In return for granting of the incidental take permit, Riverside County, the cities, the state and federal wildlife agencies are obligated to acquire 153,000 acres of land to affect wildlife habitat connectivity between the already existing public land conservation reserves. With respect to the habitats and species of the San Jacinto Wildlife Area, it is the most diverse and the existing conservation reserves in the MSHCP system. San Jacinto Wildlife Area currently provides habitat for 65 to 70 of the 146 MSHCP species being subject to incidental take in Western Riverside County right now. Maintaining the wildlife habitat suitability of the San Jacinto Wildlife Area is essential to the success of the MSHCP. Highland Fairview is seeking to donate 237 acres of the World Logistics Center project site for incorporation into the northern San Jacinto Wildlife Area boundary. In addition, Highland Fairview now owns and will donate the currently abandoned and heavily vandalized 150-acre horse ranch property, a longtime in-holding within the wildlife area. Without question, these donations will contribute
Time has come to an end.
Suitability.
Please wrap up
I
your
just
comment.
have a few more statements to make. The Highland Fairview donation of the Quail Ranch property and Eden Hot Springs property is really an anchor property for establishing habitat connectivity into the San Bernardino National Forest and beyond. The 654-acre donation of lands to the RCA, the Salvage, and the Kelvar properties are clearly suitable for inclusion in the MSHC reserve system. It's important that regardless of whether the RCA or the Department of Fish and Wildlife is the grantee of the donation lands, the RCA would be able to credit the full 2,737 acres of donation to their land acquisition obligations under the MSHCP incidental take permits. I would like to commend Highland Fairview for making the effort to look through the lens of wildlife conservation in Western Riverside County to bring this important wildlife conservation land donation
Time has come
forward.
to an end. Please wrap up your comment.
Mr. Pollack.
I would request the RCA board accept the Highland Fairview fee credit request and direct staff to correct any RCA policy impediments to future offsite land donation. And thank you for your courtesy and letting me speak a little bit longer. Thank you.
I believe that concludes our speakers. Lisa, is that correct?
I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
All right. Thank you for your comments and participation in today's meeting. We are now going to move to our staff presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Haig.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The board previously considered and decided on this item in December in closed session as a property negotiation and declined to negotiate for the properties, which is documented in your agenda packet. Last month, board members requested the board revisit this matter in open session, which is why we're here. And in the interim, the city updated their fee credit request with additional acreage proposed for conservation and some additional details of how the city would like the transaction to occur, also included in your agenda packet. Next slide, please. The city's request is that RCA approve a fee credit for World Logistics Center, which is the footprint outlined in yellow on the map, in exchange for approximately 2,700 acres of conservation land, which is in red on the map. The dark green on the map is existing RCA property, existing reserve land. The light green is reserve land held by other public agencies, such as the state, the county, or federal government. In general, the properties proposed for conservation have potential conservation value to the MSHCP, though much due diligence is needed. Some properties may have management issues that require vetting and features that may not be suitable for the reserve. The city is proposing this fee credit as a result of a settlement agreement between the applicant, Highland Fairview, and Friends of the Northern San Jacinto Valley. RCA is not a party to the settlement agreement and the litigation that preceded it, and this board is not bound by the terms of that settlement agreement. The city's formal request letter, also included in the agenda, makes numerous assumptions that public agencies such as the RCA will take actions to implement the settlement agreement. And additionally, the city's letter makes several claims about the conditions of the property that, again, require further due diligence only if the board wishes to proceed with this transaction. Next slide, please. So the city's request is not compliant with the board's longstanding fee credit policy in two aspects, and therefore staff recommends denial of the city's request. The two aspects of the policy that are the basis of staff recommendation are not new, and they've been part of the board's policy since 2016. And here on the screen, you can see the different adoption dates that the board has taken action. Next slide, please. So here is a screenshot of the current board policy. And again, this is language that is not new and has been part of previous board policies dating back to 2016. The two requirements that we're speaking about are that the conservation be on site for the project and that the fee credit be requested as part of the joint project review. The underlying purpose for this policy is to provide incentives to landowners who are looking to develop their property and are dedicating some of the property on their project site for conservation. It's a financial incentive that the MSHCP contemplates, and this is the mechanism to provide it. Let's see. Next slide, please. The RCA board has also adopted fiscal policies, including a budget and the 2020 Nexus Study, which many of you are familiar with, that puts the organization on a more sustainable and responsible financial footing. And so it's an important reminder to the board that the fees that are paid by developers to the city and to the county, if they're in an unincorporated area, don't just pay for land acquisition for RCA. It also pays for our long and short-term management costs of this property that we're acquiring. One of the most significant aspects of this is the permanent endowment, which is supposed to take care of the perpetual management of the habitat that we acquire during this acquisition period for the next several years. So when a fee credit is offered, that fee credit does take a bite out of what goes in to pay for that endowment and also the near-term management costs. So next slide, please. This is a screenshot of the Nexus Study that was adopted by this board in 2020. And you'll see here highlighted on the screen is how the Nexus Study envisioned the fee revenue to be distributed among different purposes of the RCA. So there's a bigger policy and financial picture here for the board to consider when evaluating a fee credit. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, based on the board's adopted policies, the staff recommends that the city's request be denied. However, if the board desires to entertain this potential transaction, staff presents two alternatives. One is to direct staff to develop a new fee credit policy and bring that policy back to the board for consideration, or to negotiate for this transaction aside from what policy is today. So we look forward to your direction. And before I conclude my remarks, I want to turn it over to Steve Devon of Legal Counsel for some final comments.
Thank you. I just want, this is a limited item for discussion today. We just want to make it clear that the purpose of this item is only for the board to direct staff whether to further consider the fee credit request from the city of Moreno Valley. Any further action on the fee credit request, should it be desired, is not agendized for this meeting.
All right, thank you, Mr. Devon. We will now move to board comments, questions, or considerations. I know there are some hands up. I believe, I don't know, but Supervisor Washington, I saw your hand first. I'm going to call to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. I know others will want to comment. We visited this issue in December, and my position on this has not changed. While I value the input of a great number of our folks in the environmental community, I think, one, out of respect for the process, board policy in the past, and my involvement with RCA has gone back. I was one of the founding members. So I respect the plan that was put together and how we want to maintain the plan. But we all adopted a process for following how we would deal with fee credits. We adopted policies, how staff would bring recommendations forward. And this does not adhere to that process. This was not initiated by RCA. And the fee credit would take a bite out of our fiscal bottom line. And I'm afraid, consequently, giving a fee credit to this particular project would further exacerbate our problem with many more trucks on our already congested freeways, adding also to our poor air quality and in harming our environment as well. So those would be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, for I don't know if we have the chronological order in which hands went up. Do you, or I'm just going to start calling on them based on how, okay.
I saw Ingram next.
Okay, thank you. Marietta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So listening to everybody speak out, over the last 8 years, I have been an advocate in lieu of fees in every way possible. The board has made exceptions to that policy. Here's my concern that I'll lay out for everyone to listen to. Not only this project, but other projects throughout the entire county have already got entitlements. They can actually build on them if they choose to. My concern is we want to conserve this property. The purpose behind the plan was to assemble the linkage in total to make sure that we had a synergy between environment and development. This is a very critical piece of land that's extraordinarily expensive. And I think that it needs to be looked at. And where we have opportunities for land that already have entitlement, that we should afford the opportunity to bring it back, look at it and see the value that it brings. There's a great deal of concern with this. As the plan is being assembled, what's happening is we're creating value around, I'll call it islands for the lack of a better term. And so what happens is we'll acquire one parcel and we have an island in between. We get to the next one where somebody might be able to be willing to settle, but the one that we've approved has now gotten entitlements, which drives the values of the property. It's an inherent flaw.
Recording in progress.
And so I'm absolutely concerned that we may not, somebody's on in the background there. I'm absolutely concerned that, and I've stated this before over many years, this should come back for discussion. It's something that should be looked at. And it's not only this project, it's any project that would fall under the parameters of a project like this, where it's essential linkage. In the 7 years I've been on this board, I have never seen so many environmental agencies turn out to comment on such an issue. Thank you for your time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so next up we have Menifee, then we have Norco, and then Supervisor Hewitt in that order, okay? And then also, Philip, before Menifee starts speaking, can we put staff recommendations back up on the screen, please? Thank you. All right, Lisa, sorry about that. Turn it over to you.
Thank you. So just, first of all, I appreciate all of the public comments we've received on this. I'm kind of just thinking today that we might want to continue this item for further discussion, maybe even with the executive board. But there were some questions that I have for staff, and knowing that it could be a positive thing, but it could also be a negative thing for the RCA. The endowment is an issue that I have. The sustainable long-term cost of this project could be something. I don't even know if we have a policy in place. So having staff look at this to see what is actually financial feasible for the RCA. I'm concerned a little bit of the time and effort of our staff with this. Who's going to actually pay for that? Is there a fee? If a developer like this wants to come forward, is there something in place that will help balance that out with our staff and the time that it would take? I have no idea how long something like this would take. So there's questions I have. I think there's unanswered questions, and maybe there's been a lot of things brought up today by the individuals in public comment. And I just think, let's not hurry this. Let's look at it again and maybe continue it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we have Norco.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
I tend to see things maybe in the bigger picture. I had to drive to Paris a couple of weeks ago, and there was literally 2 lanes, sometimes 3 lanes, butt-to-back trucks for 8 miles. I have to go to Los Angeles 2 or 3 times a month, and literally from the 15 all the way to Los Angeles, 2 lanes, butt-to-front trucks. I totally get we're trying to get this piece of land, and I do appreciate that some of the groups that are trying to protect this are trying to do that. But in my past, there's been other areas where I needed their help, and they just blew me off. So I'm a little upset about that. And I mean, pieces of property that were very critical to our habitat in Norco, Riverside, along that Santa Ana corridor. There was a piece of property that was just put up for sale, going to put houses there. And so I get tired of the picking and choosing. But what upsets me most about this is that we're going to trade off 2,700 acres, and it's acreage I want. But at the same time, the trade-off is hundreds of miles of congestion, literally hundreds of miles. And maybe we've passed the tipping point, maybe we can't go there, but I get frustrated with cities that will approve these kinds of things and act as if there's nobody else around them, like they're an island. And we're suffering through these truck depots to an extent that is literally, it could shut down Riverside County. So I don't really know what to do here, but I just thought we have to, we can't stop this thing, obviously. Obviously there's people that want them, but 2,700 acres to trade off how we've been trying to build this thing. And you know, I hear Jonathan's words too. I mean, he makes a lot of sense to me. But I guess when it really comes down to it, I have to really fall on the side of Supervisor Washington. I think our grandchildren are going to hate our guts. They are going to look back at this and go, what the hell were you thinking? And not one elected official that I'm looking at right now ran on the ticket that they were going to approve this kind of development anywhere in this county. If you'd ran on this ticket 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't even have gotten a vote. So anyway, I forgive me for being, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but we need to really look at the big picture. Unfortunately now I have to go to another meeting. I apologize, but that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Marco. Supervisor Hewitt and then Corona, I think will be our final comments unless there's anything else.
Yes, so I've got a little bit different take on it. I get really, really nervous whenever I see this many conservationists in the same virtual world. I don't know if there are any others out there. This is quite a few. There's some very impressive organizations that have been represented, but I generally am on the other side of anything they put up, because I am for, you know, building more houses, getting jobs here in Riverside County, whatever. But this is not about whether we approve the World Logistics Center. That's already been, you know, litigated and stuff. What I do see this as, though, is fulfilling the main objective of this agency, and that's to acquire suitable land so that we aren't, you know, one paved over parking lot like a lot of the valleys west of us are here. And I see this, and I'll tell you what, as far as Gilman Springs Road goes, it is one of the most dangerous. We put up some lanyards there a few years back. It is still a relatively blood alley. If we let this property eventually go to something else, and it could, you know, those are never stand. We put it through and put it into RCA. It stays that way, and we keep our traffic down along that whole side of it. We just spent a lot of money on the 60 truck lane with putting wildlife crossings underneath that. And this is going to feed out into this area. This is a really, really great way to go. I think, I don't know how many acres have we, maybe Ann, you could answer this. How many acres have we added to the plan in the last 2 years in total? Is it over 2,700 acres?
I do not believe so.
So we are behind we're behind in what we're supposedly supposed to be doing. I don't see how our valuable Southern California land is going to get any cheaper going forward. I agree with Aaron. Once we've acquired this plan in total, we're going to have to take care of it. It's going to take money, and that's what a trust or foundation is for. However, there's other ways that we can make up whatever that 10 or 15% the cash that normally comes through. But see, we lose a lot of that, so it's a little bit of a catch-22. But I would think that we should err in, especially when we have an agency, the city of Moreno Valley, and a property owner who are in total agreement, and then have almost everybody that I've ever heard of that talks about the very things that should be so important to us here to testify that they'd love to see it happen. I think this is, and this is why I will be for, and I will make that motion to go with alternative 2, negotiate for the 2,700 acres. And then again, that other part, if this goes through and we find out that it really is worth doing and we pursue that, and as Ann says, this will take more than a couple of weeks, obviously, that may open up to that living document to have other bigger pieces, and maybe we can finish this out in a timely manner. And Jonathan, before he goes on to the next phase in his life, may actually see the plan built out.
Thank you, Supervisor Hewitt. Corona.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I wanted to commend staff on a great staff report. It was very clear, very concise, and laid out exactly what the issues are. Being in the environmental field and working with the HCP and other things, I do see value in acquiring such a large piece. However, the financial detriment this could handle or hand to the RCA is substantial. And just as land isn't going to get cheaper, managing these lands will not get cheaper. So protecting our endowment and protecting, how we can take care of and how we can fund these projects, going forward is frankly as important. And I want to make sure I understand this correctly. The agreement that's been agreed to here is that this land is to go into some sort of protection, whether it's through us or through California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I know that they haven't evaluated that yet, but the agreement is for it to be set aside, correct? Do I have that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this land will not be built upon. This land will not be transferred to someone else to build upon. This land must be conserved. And, without, I haven't dove into the settlement agreement. There needs to be some sort of endowment or taking care. This needs to be taken care of in perpetuity. And I understand that's the agreement between the two parties. Is that also correct?
Wes, I'm sorry, can you re-ask the last portion?
Sure, I will. My question is, does the agreement between the two parties specify that the property is to be taken care of in perpetuity, to manage in perpetuity?
Could I answer that question?
I don't know who that is. I believe it's Miss Sunash, but I'm gonna have staff answer that. And
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Speak, the settlement agreement has a lot of requirements with respect to what happens to the land when and if it receives a fee credit and to whom it goes. Some of it says to go to RCA, some of it says to go to California Fish and Wildlife. My only comment here would be, board members, is that RCA is not responsible for implementation of the settlement agreement. And so I would be, and I am trying to be very, very cautious not to speak to what the settlement agreement requires. Our main focus would be on The city's request related to us acquiring the property either through a fee credit or through number 2, a negotiation, and that any lands that we would acquire would go into conservation in perpetuity.
Okay.
So it's a little
Great.
bit of a long way around, but from an RCA standpoint, the issue is about us acquiring land, yes or no. And when we do acquire land, it goes into conservation in perpetuity. So if we did acquire any of these lands, it would be conserved.
Madam Chair, if I may, just briefly, I think it would be important for you to allow the attorney that drafted the agreement to weigh in, if you would, please.
Okay, thank you for that comment, Jonathan. Before I do that, and I want to make sure I get to all our board members because we had a lot of public comment and this is our board's time to speak. I want to make, oh wait, I see more hands going up. I want to make an alternative motion and provide my own comment. And that is that I too am very impressed with the public participation and the comments provided to us today, and understand that this is a vital part of our acreage allocation and how we're formulating the success of the plan. And to be clear, looks to be at face value something that we should absolutely jump on based on the size of this fee credit. However, I'm also really focused on changing the reputation of the RCA and the way we do business, and following our policy and procedures, and not making decisions based on what is attractive to us. But if our policy needs to change to incorporate this type of action, then that's what we actually need to do. We need to make it easier so that we can accept this, and that we can talk about things like cost and management and staff time, and have a system for that to be set up. So while I am torn here as well, I'm actually going to make a recommendation to move that we deny the city's fee credit request for the World Logistics Center. And that's the action we can take today, with comment.
Second that with a comment.
Okay, thank you. Second from Supervisor Washington, with the comment that we do need to bring this back to staff. Our stakeholder committee should look at it, as well as we need to have this discussion about policy going forward, but that is not agendized today. So we would talk about just this action. So first and a second, but I do see hands. So Marietta.
I have no other comments. You know how I've felt about this for a long time. And again, it's the policy itself. And I think that there's some inaccuracy in what's being stated here today. The property can be developed, and that's why I ask that you allow the attorney to speak prior to making a motion, so that everybody could at least have the opportunity, be afforded the opportunity to hear what the settlement agreement was about. So I'm a little concerned that we're not doing that before making a motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Jonathan, to clarify, I mean, we know, and we all know Robert's Rule of Order. If there is a subsequent motion and the board would like to make it, I have not called for the vote, and I could have, so I'm making sure that everybody has their opportunity to speak. Are there any board members that would like to speak before I circle back to the attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think you are following protocol. Typically at a meeting like this, we take input from the public, and then the elected members make their comments. The public has had their opportunity to speak. It's not a town hall meeting. So we are discussing this. You made a motion, I seconded it. And to go back to Director Bash's comments centered around the cost of this. The city of Moreno Valley did not request fee credit when this project was approved back in 2013-14. Now they're coming back. This fee credit costs RCA money. Moreno Valley approved the project with the eye of economic development that would benefit the city of Moreno. But the rest of the county is paying the price for that development or potential development. RCTC partnered with the county years ago to try to stop that development and get some sort of mitigation to help expand some of our freeway. Because as again, Director Bash pointed out, we're going to choke on the traffic, truck traffic in and out of Riverside County. with all of these logistics centers. And then eventually we're going to choke on the bad air and the bad environment. So I'm a solid no against this. I don't see why we should undertake this to benefit, Moreno Valley, but to benefit the city of Moreno Valley and this project, and the rest of the county pay a price for it.
I do see we have other board members requesting to speak. Patricia, and then I think Supervisor Hewitt.
Thank you. It's actually just a question. And I just wanted to ask, denial of the fee credit request today does not in any way obviate the ability to actually go back and purchase these lands later, correct? It doesn't preclude that we can go back to the developer and RCA can negotiate with the developer outside this process, outside the whole fee credit discussion. Is that correct?
I'll look to Ward, to legal counsel.
That's correct.
Okay. So even if it were denied today, there's still the potential to acquire these properties. That's the question I'm asking.
It can be brought back at a later time, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes, Chair Johnson. So when I made a motion earlier, no one asked for a second from that. And then you came in and made a substitute motion and got an immediate second. So remember, when you're talking about Robert's rules, at least, you know, when we make a primary motion, it'd be nice to be able to get a second, or if it dies of lack of seconds, that's fine. But there was never asked, is there a second to that motion? So I'm just pointing out, listen, you know, we're playing with Robert.
Question if that's going to go straight to vote.
I appreciate the comments, but to be fair and consistent, running this proceedings for this action like we have since I became the chair, which is hearing a motion, I stop immediately, notate it, and ask for further discussion. There was no motion. I didn't step in to make a second motion. So I hear what you're saying, sir, but I didn't hear a second motion. And so we moved on as we would with any other action that we have taken throughout my time as chair. So I believe we're still on track as following Robert's Rule of Order. I waited to make my motion to hear the discussion, the comments from board, to hear the public, to make sure there's no rush here, but my motion still stands with a first and a second. But I do see there's further discussion. Menifee?
Will you clarify your motion, please?
The motion is to deny the city's fee credit request for the World Logistics Center as recommended by staff, and then to note bringing back for fee credit policy.
Thank you.
To our stakeholders committee and to our staff too.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to stakeholders. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. I believe we have another hand. Marietta.
When appropriate, I'd like to make a counter motion.
Yeah, if we're ready now, sir. Go
All
ahead.
right, I would support bringing this back for discussion and not turning this away. And so I'm passionate about these properties. I think that we need them. So my motion would be that we bring this back for discussion to the council or to the board and not turn it away at this time.
Madam Chair, if I might, that's not one of the three items. The other two are direct staff to develop a fee credit policy or to negotiate or deny the city's fee credit request.
Can I have
To
legal?
amend the motion to direct staff to amend the policy regarding the fee credit, Madam Chair.
Okay, so just so we're clear, it's getting a little convoluted. Can we have legal counsel clarification for what item number 2 looks like with this amended motion? So we're just clear, so we don't have to go back and forth.
I think we need to take action on the motion on the floor.
Yeah, and take a vote.
But we have comments to say that there is clarification. Jonathan, do you want to restate your motion?
motion is to bring back the question to staff regarding amending the fee policy in lieu of fees. That is agendized.
And so, Madam Chair, then the question would be, do our board policy allow for substitute motions without taking a vote on the original motion?
I was asking legal counsel for clarification. We have Jonathan's clarified motion. Can we have weigh in, please?
Chairman Johnson, do you accept the amendment to the motion? He's amending your motion, and I believe you need to accept that.
I am not in acceptance of the amendment.
Then it's not accepted.
Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Then we will go.
Chair Johnson, can you clarify the motion just to make sure everybody's clear?
Yes, it's the staff recommendation to deny the city fee credit request for World Logistics Center and bring back our fee credit policy, noted, bringing back our fee credit policy to our stakeholders committee and have staff recommendations. We will move to roll call vote.
District 1. District 2. District 3.
Yes.
District 5.
No.
Banning. Beaumont.
Yes.
Calamasa.
No.
Canyon Lake.
Aye.
Corona.
Aye.
Eastvale.
Aye.
Hemet. Harupa Valley.
Yes.
Lake Elsinore.
Yes.
Menifee.
Yes.
Moreno Valley. Marietta.
No.
Norco. Paris.
Yes.
Riverside.
Aye.
San Jacinto. San Jacinto. Temecula.
No.
Wildemar.
Aye.
Thank you. I have I have 11 yes votes. Is that what you also have, Melanie? And
Yes.
4 no votes. And 4 no votes.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the staff report and for our public comments and discussion. Item number 10 is our Board of Directors Executive Director Report. Before we do that, we do have a stakeholder. I believe Rick has joined us. If sir, welcome. I know you weren't able to give us a quick introduction of who you are, why you're serving, and we're welcome to the Stakeholders Committee.
Well, I've been here, but I forgot to hit the unmute, and so you moved on, but that's okay. My name is Rick Neugebauer. I'm Chair and President of SAWA, which is Santa Ana Watershed Association, and Associate Director for Team RCD. And I've been in as a Riverside constituent for about 65 years. And this is just a great county we live in, and so I'm giving back. And that's why I'm involved.
Oh,
hopefully I can donate and give my efforts in the right direction.
Well, after today's meeting, we've loaded you guys up with some agenda items, so we appreciate your service. Welcome to the Stakeholders Committee.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll turn it over to Ann.
Thank you very much. Just a very quick announcement. Let me see if he is still here. Yes, I'm very pleased to introduce you to Sergio Vidal. Sergio started this month as the RCA CFO. So Teresa Trevino, our Chief Financial Officer, retired last month. Sergio comes to us from the city of Santa Ana, where he served in multiple different roles there in the finance department. So please join me in welcoming Sergio. So he's starting right at the beginning of budget time. So he gets to jump right in with his very first RCA budget. So I'm just happy to introduce him to you all here today, and I'm sure you'll be seeing more of him in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sergio.
Thank you.
Anne, is that going to wrap up your report? Okay, thank you. Well, it has been quite the meeting, way over in time, but I appreciate we got we had a lot to discuss today, and appreciate everyone's decorum. Our next meeting is Monday, March 7th, and we will see you all then. To our stakeholders, for those that stuck with us throughout this entire meeting, thank you, welcome, we're excited. And with that, I'll say happy Monday and have a great week, everybody.